Yet another year has flown by, and we are recapping some of the biggest stories over the last 12 months. Today, I'm Sabrina Salas-Matanani, and welcome to KUAM's countdown of the top stories of 2013. We begin with number 10, an issue that sparked heated debate in our community. Bill 215 has sparked the attention of many in our community. The bill, introduced by Senators Tina Rose Muñoz-Barnes and Aline Yamashita, proposes legalizing the use of marijuana in Guam for medicinal purposes only. It was named after the late Joaquin Concepcion, or Savage K, a local musician in Guam who was diagnosed with cancer several years ago and moved to the state of Washington, where he died in July.
Don't be afraid to learn about something you don't know. Marijuana is not evil. It is actually really good for you. So please do your research.
Several people testified in support of the legislation, like Molesso resident Marinalyn Hale, who was diagnosed with systemic lupus 8 years ago.
I've seen what this could potentially help me with. I could probably sleep better at night. I could probably get up in the morning and not be in pain. But I don't know because I haven't been given a chance yet.
Others, however, testified in opposition of the bill, like the Guam Medical Association and multiple cancer survivor Bradley Hewitt. He recommended the use of Marinol, which is the only U.S. FDA-approved synthetic cannabinoid and is often marketed as a legal pharmaceutical alternative to natural cannabis.
Marinol is available for just about everything from nausea to vomiting, but it does not include some of the other conditions that's out there. Some of these conditions include pain, PTSD. These conditions have numerous websites that allow you to trick your doctor into believing that you need these drugs when in fact you really don't. People just want to get high.
As much as he supports any reasonable consideration for alternatives to alleviate pain and suffering for those whom conventional means have failed, Public Health Director John Gillen could not support the measure as proposed.
Quite simply, Mr. Chairman, the administrative and regulatory burden created by this bill is impossible to achieve without adequate funding.
Bill 215 awaits action by the Guam legislature. Our next story in our countdown takes us to the battleground of the Guam legislature and debate that erupted back in June over Bill 20, which was added into Bill 19. The end version of the legislation would tax gaming devices that were the subject of a 5-year-old lawsuit and divert the revenue to the Guam Memorial Hospital. Prior to its passage, however, the Democrats duked it out over whether rules were being manipulated to suppress discussion on the merging of the measures.
If we cannot, in this House, this body of legislators cannot have any rules of decorum or any respect for any rules, then we are really a sad body of legislators.
Madam Speaker, I as chairman on rules, I want to say that right now, based on your ruling and your actions, we're operating under the guise of jungle rules, and I'm asking that we instill some order to our own standing rules.
A motion to reconsider can only be made by a member who voted on the prevailing side of the question.
There was seven yeas and 7 noes, so which one was the prevailing side?
We are not supposed to be procedurally tying ourselves into knots so that we cannot function. This is an embarrassment.
After hours of debate on germaneness, Speaker Judy Wanpat eventually recessed session for July, but her colleagues weren't having it and instead returned several hours after her adjournment.
There was a sua sponte attempt by the chair to recess this legislature till July 1st. And there was an objection that was raised. More than one person objected, and the presiding officer did not acknowledge that objection. And so, Madam Speaker, the fact that you see 9 members of the legislature still staying here at 9 p.m., I think it's a strong statement to the people that we are not wanting to be forced to operate under a jungle rules type of environment, and that we want the rules to be followed.
The legislation eventually passed, but the fallout led to the introduction of Resolution 181, which proposed changing the legislature's standing rules to allow by majority vote or 8 senators to remove the Speaker, the Vice Speaker, the Legislative Secretary, or any standing committee chairperson, and 8 votes to remove any legislative attaché. Currently, the only way the legislature's leadership or attachés can be removed is through 8 votes from members from within the Committee on Rules. The resolution never went up for a vote. In November, the world may have seen the worst storm to make landfall in the Philippines, but it also saw the best in mankind. On November 8th, Super Typhoon Yolanda roared through the Philippines, leaving thousands of people dead, missing, and millions homeless. In a flash, the superstorm's pounding rain and wretched wind stirred up a storm surge that filled coastal areas and sucked the life right out of it. Immediately following the super typhoon, Philippine President Benigno Aquino III declared a state of national calamity for Samar, Leyte, Cebu, Iloilo, Capiz, Auckland, and Palawan. Guam's public, private, and public sectors came forward to help.
Let's face it, the Filipinos have touched every life, every village, every business in this community, so we're asking the employees to do the same thing.
We knew we needed to huddle together and see what method we can to help. And so I believe it was on Saturday where we made that pledge that we're going to donate $25,000 towards the effort.
Guam Cleaning Masters this year getting ready to cancel our Christmas party to donate that money to the people of Philippines, those who get affected. We're going to be donating $10,000.
Meanwhile, aid arrived to the Philippines from all over the world, including from our small island, helping in a big way.
We're actually the largest private medical delegation that's heading out to the disaster. The rest are actually all, not private, I suppose. It's public or government funded. So we're actually funding ourselves and going down there.
In November, the Guam Medical Association teamed up with the St. Luke's Medical Center to conduct a medical mission to Cebu, specifically in the cities of Daanbantayan, Sogod, and San Remio.
The path, the storm went straight through this area.
The only thing that we can say is Daanbantayan is hit 100% devastated.
Guam's heroes treated at least 3,000 patients in the 3 days of the mission. 2 additional missions are planned for 2014.
3 down, 7 more to go. Will yours make the list before we head into the break? Here's a list of the top 10 most read stories on KUAM.com.
Academy